Okay, this is a video for Tiani. We're trying to demonstrate a little bit more slowly than the hyperlapse video, the bowl making technique. So I have already covered my pre-existing bowl that I'm going to use as a mold. I've covered that with Glad wrap and tried to get it as flat as possible. It's got a little air bubble there, but that won't matter too much. Okay, so I've got that already sorted. I have my slab, which I'll try to show you. Okay, that is the thickness of the slab I'd like you to use. It's about 1/2 centimetre. So if you're in between 1/2 to 3/4 of a centimetre would be fine, but don't go a whole centimetre. You're going to find these very thick and clumsy looking. So rolling it out as evenly as possible as well. You don't want thick bits and thin bits. It can affect the drying and your making. So keep that in mind as well. Then when you get to this stage, just roll it out. Put your bowl down as a measure. Don't go tracing around it, because remember, you're going to have to push the clay into the bowl, and you're going to need a little bit of extra clay to be able to push down. So I would just trim up my clay about that and about that. My clay is actually a little bit dry. Like when you get yours out of the bag and you've rolled it, make sure you wrap it up in some garbage bags straight away. So I'll roll out a number of slabs, put them down in your bag, put a little bit of moist newspaper in between each slab, and then wrap it all up until you're ready to use it. So this I'm literally going to put straight into some plastic. Don't scrunch it up, just lay it out flat, because you'll use this for the eyes. Okay, put that in there and we'll just cover it over. If you're like me and your clay is drying out a little bit, you might have a spray bottle at home and you can just give it a bit of a spray. And we just keep that wrapped up. Paper clay tends to dry out a little bit faster than the rakus that you've probably used to using. So you'll get to know paper clay as you go along. It's quite a nice clay to work with. It's quite buttery though. All right, so put the bowl to one side. Take our slab. Put the bowl back and start to lay it out. Okay, so just very, very gently, you try to push it down. Try not to make the underside too wrinkly or overlapping, because it's just adding more work. So don't push it down all at once. Just gently, slowly, little bit at a time. And you try to snuggle it into that bowl. So I can feel the bottom of the bowl now, but the sides aren't touching. So if you're lucky and you've got a turntable like I do, great, use it. If not, what you could do at home is just get some newspaper and fold it up into a rectangle, a thick wad of it, and that makes it easy just to move around on a table. And you can literally do the same thing as I'm doing here. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a bubble. Don't worry about that too much. You can just press that out. Okay, we've got a major one here. We should be able to also gently just press that out. Okay. If you are wearing any jewelry like rings, see how my rings are starting to leave an imprint, you might want to take your jewelry off first. Again, just one last thing to do before you start. It'll make your life a lot easier. I don't particularly care when I'm doing this stuff. I'll happily do a little bit more work and smooth it out later. So that's pretty good, actually. I can actually just do one last run, pushing it down, and I can feel that it is in contact with the bowl underneath, which is awesome. That's what we need. All right, next thing, is to trim up the rim. So I do it in a couple of goes. I don't try to get it perfect in the first go. So I can see here, this is pretty close to the rim here, so I'm going to start there. And I would start by trying to have your cutting tool just flat. Don't have it at an angle, because you end up with either a really fat rim or a really, really thin rim. So as straight as you can, you just sort of move it out a little bit. Yep. Hang on, you come up there. And a little bit more. Okay. And you even use a bit of a scissor action, a bit of a sawing action if you feel that it's better. Again, you'll work out the way that works best for you and your clay. So this action is working for me because the clay is a little bit dry. All right, again, we take that. I'll actually break it up a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to lie it on top of each other because it could come in handy for something else that I'm doing. Or like I said, you could actually get some eyes out of that. So we're going to put it in our plastic. Again, I'll give that a bit of a spray. Okay, pop out. Clean my tool off. Okay, so now this is a pretty good cut, but I'm going to angle my cutting tool just down slightly. You can actually have a really badly made bowl, and as long as you do the rim of your bowl as well as possible, it'll give the illusion that it's a finely made bowl. People tend to look at the rims of things before they look at the rest of it. So spending a bit of time on the rim of your bowl is actually a really important thing to do. So I'm just going to have it at an angle where I'm actually resting my tool on the lip of the bowl, but I'm angling it down. I'm just going to try and get a thinner looking lip to the bowl. And it's tempting to try and do it all at once, like all in one go. Yeah, don't. This plastic gets caught up in it. And that's all right. Later on, when you take the bowl out, you'll be able to tidy that up with the sponge. Okay, so you see how you end up with this little hard lip there? So I'm just going to smooth that down. So I just take off a little bit of clay with my tool. Now the tool that you might have, I included just a skewer, a metal skewer, and it will do exactly the same job as this if you don't have a proper ceramic tool. Okay, so it's starting to get tidier. I'll just clear up all of this stuff. Again, if you leave it, this little piles of clay will dry very quickly. And that might be okay if you want to let this stuff completely dry out, crumble it into a container and add water, then you can mix it together and come up with slurry, which is like a paste. It's a sloshy clay paste, and you can use that then to stick your eyes on when we come to use moisture later on. So you might even want to do that, leave a little bit of this stuff out. It's got to be completely dry and crumbly before you can use it though. And in all honesty, I haven't actually made slurry with paper clay, so it'll be interesting to know how that goes. But for the moment, I'm just going to smush it all together, and again, I'm going to put it under my plastic. Okay, I'm going to get these little bits off. Now, I forgot to include one of these kidney tools in your pack. So I'm going to give Miss Jones a call and just see if you've got some of these at school. They're really handy for smoothing out, and they fit perfectly into the shape of this bowl, which is awesome. So it's worthwhile trying to hunt one down. If she doesn't have one at school, I do have another one at home here that I can just drop over to school. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, the next stage is actually smoothing out your edges. So again, just taking your time to, and I'm not using the actual lip. I'm sort of lying it flat almost, and you're sort of dragging it across the surface. And it's very satisfying, this part of the procedure. It just feels nice. Feels like butter. So I've got little bits that have come off there and there. I'm going to try and push some of that clay with a firm pressure. Just push some of that clay up to the lip. Okay, and we'll see how that goes. Again, you can't really do it in one go. So it's about just working slowly. You get a bit of clay on there, that's all right. Just clean it up. If I can see there's too much clay here compared to there, I've just pushed a little bit harder, less flat. So I'm working flat, but I've just moved it up a little bit, and the clay gets caught by that rim. So as you get to use this tool, you'll get to understand how to use it better for your purposes. Okay. I can see there's more clay here that I want to get rid of. So I want to try and pull it up, because I've also got a bit of a scrappy lip happening there. So we'll see how we go. Sometimes you can't, like if you've ended up with a really scrappy lip, sometimes it's just easier to, you know, smush a bit of clay together, roll it out almost like a coil and add it back on, join it and then go over. So yeah, don't ever go, oh no, you get to this point and go, oh, I've got a big hole there. Oh, just join a bit of clay in and smooth it over. This part of the process is really quite addictive. You could probably do this all day because it just feels good. Now I've got a bit of a thin bit there, and I'm not going to worry about that because this is just a demonstration bowl. But I also know when you come to decorate the edge of the bowl with that stamp that I've put in, the stamp will actually push some of the clay up and over as well. So it'll hide those really scrappy edges. Okay. I'll just see how, I've got a sponge. I've given you my good sponge, so look after it. But I've just got an old scrappy old house sponge here. Let's just see if we can smooth down that edge a little bit now, just to tidy it up. Okay, that's getting there. It's good to know, actually. I've never used this type of sponge before. Okay, so it's a damp sponge. It's not like I'm actually squeezing out the water. You don't want anything super sloppy or wet, and paper clay can get wet very quickly. And if that's the case, you just need to put it to one side and let it, you know, dry out for a little while. Okay, well, I'm pretty happy with that. So that actually didn't take very long at all. So you're at this stage. What you can do is, if it's like mine and it's dryish, you could wrap it up, put it to one side and start working on the eyes. which is actually what I might do. Sure, I'll put this over to one side. In my little bit of plastic, I will get that bit of clay that I cut off. That's a nice big bit. Okay. There you go. Wrap you over. Doesn't have to be tightly wrapped, but yeah, wrapped all the same. Clear off my workspace. Keeping your work area as clean as possible is always a good idea. You're going to be working at home. You don't want lots of little bits of clay getting onto the floor or around the place. Clay dust is not the best thing for anyone to be breathing in. It's not going to be dangerous. It's not going to kill you. It's more people like me that are working with clay every day and I've been doing it for the last 30 years, have to worry about clay dust. But it's just a really good habit to get into, to try and work as cleanly as possible, especially if you're at home doing this. I'm sure mum or dad don't want bits of clay being ground into the carpet. Next thing is the eyes. So in your pack, I have included just a little template. Now you might be fine, you might just want to freehand do it, and that's okay. I just thought I'd include something like that. So you can actually trace over it, find the impression, cut out your eyes, and then use this to place them on the bowl. So I'll do that today. Got a bit of blue in my clay for some reason. Anyway, doesn't matter. I said this is just an example. Now, if it was me in your position and wanting to make lots and lots of these, I wouldn't be sticking my template in the middle. It's a bit of a waste of clay. So what you could be doing is, sticking it up as close to the edge as possible, and that way you might be able to get 10 eyes out of this bit of clay. Next thing is just to get your cutty tool. Let's take a seat and pressing firmly. So I try to use all my tools on the side, not on the tip. If you press on the tip, like if I was going to do here, you end up with a bit of a messy line. You do it on the side, you get this nice clean line. So just get into the habit of using tools on the side. So I'm just pressing down on this just to give me a bit of a line, just so I can trace, just so I get two even sizes. It's always hard to get two of anything exactly the same. Got a wobbly line going there. Okay, let's see if I can actually... Oh yeah, I can just see the lines there. Yep, just see the lines there. Good. So before I cut, I'm just going to draw those lines in so I know what I'm doing. And that one. Okay. Or if you wanted to, you could just trace one and then use the same one and trace it there. You don't have to do it, you've got a bit of wasted clay in the middle there. But anyway, I'll leave it up to you. I'd get rid of excess clay. Okay, so again, I'm just going to try and use that tool on the side. Okay, so nice clean cut. Don't be afraid to turn it around. Come here. It's hard doing it on this turntable. It wants to move. So you might want to do this part of the process not on a turntable. That's okay. We'll just smooth that out. Okay, so likewise for this one. Actually, I might be able to be cheeky and do it all in one go. There we go. Oop. So you've got all these lovely pieces that you'll be able to use for eyes. You might even want to cut out all of your eyes, or 10 or 20 eyes, wrap them up, and then you can just do your bowls, do your eyes, do your bowls, do your eyes, and you get a bit of production line happening. So it's up to you how you want to work. So if this was going to be, you know, eyes and bowls for my work, I would spend a bit of time actually getting both of these eyes to a point where I was happy with the way they were looking. I'm not going to spend a lot of time actually tidying these up because that will make for a really boring video. So let's assume that these eyes are like, oh, they're awesome. I'm happy with that. Okay. You know, I was saying about slip before. If you've made some slip and you want to use that, great. If not, just grabbing a little bit of water with a paintbrush. This is just a soft paintbrush. And often I'll grab some water out of the bowl and that paintbrush will be really wet. So I'll just, you know, get rid of some of the moisture. So you actually want a damp paintbrush. You don't want lots and lots of water happening. Because again, it just makes it all really sloppy. Okay, so I'm going to shove that there. Now, the pupil or the iris is always getting mixed up. I should really look that up. So we're going to start by doing the little round balls and try to do both, you know, do both of them at the same time. You don't have to do it with both hands, but, you know, do one, do the other. And then squeeze them out so they're slightly flat, like little round donuts. And then just place them on and see if that's the right size. So that, I think, should actually be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to squeeze them out again. That one needs squeezing out a bit more. Okay. So I do actually want the little round circles to touch, well, be close to touching the top and the bottom. Okay. And you need to come out more. So this is the part of the eye that you will end up painting, glazing, whatever the light color is, okay? And I suggested a light color, so like a blue or a green or a light brown or something. And because when you put the iris in, that's going to be black. So if you were to do a dark brown and a black iris, there wouldn't be any contrast. You wouldn't see it. So not much point. So you can, because the eyelids are actually going to come over the top of these eyes, you can kind of get away with not joining them as well. But if you want to and you're pedantic, that's fine. So you can either use this tool or I use a joining tool. So it's just a curved tool. Okay. And you're going to run it. You're not going to use the tip, but you're going to run it along the edges. So I'll show you how to do that. Your tool in your kit is the pink wooden tool that kind of looks like a pencil but isn't a pencil. So it's just got that curved edge to it. So all you do is run your tool around the edge and you want to join. You will actually see when the two bits of clay sort of join together. So it's hard to describe and it's probably even harder to see on a video, but you'll know when you see it. Okay. So that's joined. If you weren't to join it in some way, if you just plonked it on top, that little bit of clay is going to dry out at a faster rate than your bottom bit of clay. And when clay dries, it wants to shrink. So you've got your bottom layer shrinking at a slower rate than your top layer. If this isn't joined on, it's just going to fall off. It's going to crack off. So you do anything you join on needs to be joined really well. So I've done one. I might as well do the other. So they're looking a bit scrappy, which is why you get your paintbrush and you can start smoothing out your edges. And the fact that you're smoothing out those edges and the clay, it does actually distribute the clay over that joint as well. It just helps to join it a little bit more as well as tidying it up. Okay. Again, it's a nice thing to do. It just feels good. I don't know what it is. It's sort of smooth and soft and anyway. Okay, so we've got two eyes. Not looking too bad. We need to put in the little irises. So again, we'll try one that size. It might be a bit big. I think that one's a bit smaller. Grab a bit more clay. Let's have a look. Might be. Again, squeeze it and position it. Now, if you wanted eyes, yeah, I suggested in the initial idea that maybe you have some eyes that are looking up, some are looking down, some are looking straight at you or looking sideways. You can actually make those eyes do that by how you position the pupil and the iris. So if you wanted these eyes looking that way, I'd position this ball closer to the middle and that one obviously that way. Likewise, if you want eyes looking up, then place it higher up if you can and place the iris up higher. So it's worth playing around as to the position of your eyeballs. And I'm just going to put that one in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to press down. Now, I press down without putting any moisture behind it because I can see it's still a bit wet. You might want to add a bit of moisture before you press these down. I might just add a little bit of moisture to the top and try to join those edges with the paintbrush. So there's only a very small amount of clay that's really being moved with a paintbrush. I wouldn't rely on this method of joining for anything large. But I'm going to actually press in using a tool. Oh yes, hopefully you might have something like a skewer at home or something small that you can use. Like I wouldn't use a pointy tool. You actually want a flat edged skewer, wooden skewer, to push in the pupils. So I'm going to try and push that top clay right down through to that second layer, and that will help join the clay as well. So, okay, before I take it out, it wants to stick a little bit, so I'll just twist it. Okay, this one's a bit higher up actually. I should press you down a bit more. Okay, so pressing down into that second layer, twisting it. Right, looking good. Put my skewer to one side. Now, eyelids. Eyelids are a little bit fussier. Okay. So let's just have a little look. I might. An eyelid will go from there to about there. All right, so that's basically the length of your eyelids. Yeah, I'll go about there. Again, you've just got to do a bit of trial and error to see how wide you want your eyelid. So, okay, that's not too bad. You don't want this very hard flat edge on your eyelid though, so you do need to sort of press it out. So it'll become a very long finish at the top, almost like a triangle, I suppose. So this has to be thin, thin, thin. And you just start playing with it. Of course, the thinner you get there, the perhaps the wider this becomes. So you might need to take a little bit off the back, and that's okay. So again, you just plonk it down, go, yep, all right, that's looking good. Perhaps should okay. Let's just have a look at doing another one. Okay. Have a look. So that'll be the bottom. Now the bottom's going to be a bit big, so I would actually take a little bit off. We have another look. Now, that's not too bad. Move out of the way. Yep. Okay, that's looking good. Alrighty, so I'm just going to put those down that way. So I'm going to add again a little bit more moisture just to this edge, or slurry or slip. I prefer slip, you know, this, because it's more like glue. This is a little bit, but if you haven't made it, then yeah, it's a bit difficult. Okay, let's just have a bit of a look. Right, need to take a little bit off at the top here. Oh, got another bit there. All right. Okay, good. So we've got that happening. Now with your joining tool, okay, you join that top layer. Let's see if we can get that on video a bit better. Hopefully you'll see it join. Okay, see how that's not too bad. Right, we've got to do the back. Because if you didn't join this up and you plonked it down on your plate, you're going to trap some air between your eye and the plate. When it comes to be fired, that air is going to want to explode. So we need to eliminate any potential air pockets. But also you need to join it on, otherwise it'll just fall off. Okay. The back doesn't have to look beautiful, just has to be serviceable. Okay, so that's one side. Again, a little bit of slip, slurry or moisture. And let's have a look. Is it going to be perfect enough? Oh, it's a bit messy. Okay, so that looks good. Yep, and it's already stuck. I've got a bit of moisture there happening there. That'll do. That'll do. So again, if you can, pull it out a little bit and try. Actually, I might pull it out a lot. Bring you up a bit more. Okay. Join it. Oh,